Grace and peace to you. Friends, at the moment, it feels as if anything and possibly everything could change in an instant. The rain pours from thundery skies, and the sun can burn our skin. High street spending is starting to rise, and a large recession is starting to grip. Life is opening up, and lockdown regulations are tightening. In all of this, it's easy to want just to hunker down, to hide. It makes it very easy to take the decision that doing nothing is maybe a good option. Because if we do nothing, there's little chance of getting soaked by the very real rain or the metaphorical rain. But the reading today is not about doing nothing. It's about doing something. Jesus is walking on the water, and Peter is stepping out to join him. It's a story of courageous first steps and a declaration at the very beginning from Jesus, where he says, "Do not be afraid." And it's a story where Peter does something and gets wet. We'll come to the reading shortly, but first I wanted to tell you a little bit about Sparrow. Sparrow, named after the type of bird, is our dog. She's a scruffy border terrier who is a strange little bundle of compassion and fun. She'll lie at my feet when days are long and challenging, gently present and keeping me on track. And she'll bounce and she'll play and she'll rough and she'll tumble in the sunny salad days too. But it's not these parts of her that I want to tell you about. I want to tell you about Sparrow and the pigeons. Sparrow, who we've had since she was a puppy, is a working breed. A dog that's genetically inclined to hunt and to chase. And without a second thought, the moment that Sparrow sees a pigeon in the garden, she drops low to the ground and starts to stalk. She's not been trained to do this. But as soon as she sees the bird, her instinct kicks in and she sets about the task at hand. There's no need to worry about the pigeons. Sparrow could stalk them from now until forever, and she'd not catch a single one. But for the time being, with thoughts of instinct and what to do in our changeable world, let us hear today's reading.
Immediately, Jesus made the disciples get into the boat and go before him to the other side, while he dismissed the crowds. And after he dismissed the crowds, he went up the mountain by himself to pray. When evening came, he was there alone, but the boat by this time was a long way from the land, beaten by the waves, for the wind was against them. And in the fourth watch of the night, he came to them, walking on the sea. But when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were terrified and said, "It's a ghost." And they cried out in fear. But immediately, Jesus spoke to them, saying, "Take heart, it is I. Do not be afraid." And Peter answered him, "Lord, if it's you, command me to come to you on the water." He said, "Come." So Peter got out of the boat and walked on the water and came to Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid and was beginning to sink. He cried out, "Lord, save me." Jesus immediately reached out his hand and took hold of him, saying to him, "O you of little faith, why did you doubt?" And when they got into the boat, the wind ceased, and those in the boat worshipped him, saying, "Truly, you are the Son of God." Here ends our reading.
Thank you, Kirsty. What a miraculous set of events. a story about God inviting Peter to do the miraculous, that tells us that our imperfections are not a stumbling block to doing the work of God. This is not a story about the need to have a super strong faith or an ability to quote chapter and verse. No, this is about looking to Jesus and following the very best that we can, no matter how we might describe our own faith. As we step out of the boat, the waves will soak our legs, fear will grip us, and we will start to sink. But as we start to sink, the arm of Christ reaches out, reminding us not to be afraid. As we start to struggle, we're reminded that this is not about a transactional relationship with God. This is not about believing hard enough or following a set of rules. This is a story about instincts and about grace. A story about looking to God and following Christ. Was it Peter's instinct to jump out of the boat into the water? I don't suppose we will ever know. But I'm sure it was his instincts that kicked in when he was on that lake's surface. I'm sure that his instincts were very present as the waterline crept up his legs. But in that panic, in the concern of that moment, the divine instinctively reaches out and offers a hand. Divine grace and calm is offered in the midst of the storm. Sparrow, our Manx terrier, instinctively chases the pigeons in the garden. She's terrible at it. We still feed her. We instinctively go about the day-to-day stuff of life, and we make mistakes. We miss the pigeons we're chasing. We make other mistakes too, but the divine hand of grace is still extended to us as we start to sink in the waters of life. Sometimes in life, we need to stay in the boat. We need to be sure of what's around us. If we do that, we still need the hand of grace, and we stay where we are for the moment. However, we are all called to move forward, to step out of the boat. There are times when we have to step out into the unknown in faith, looking at the situations around us, fixing our eyes on God, and walking in a way that proactively seeks to emulate Christ. As we step out, we will get our feet wet. We will almost certainly get our ankles wet, and we maybe get our knees wet too. But we still get out of the boat. In the teachings of Jesus, we're called to step out of the boat of our own comfort and risk walking on the water, all the time with our eyes on Christ. As we navigate the changes that coronavirus has thrust onto the world, as we move forward into a new way of being church, we have to continue to step out from where we are comfortable, taking the love of God out of our own boat and into the world. And as we do that, we must pray. As you pray this week, pray for those caught up in the very real storms of this last week. Pray for those affected by the rail crash in Aberdeenshire. Pray that you might be able to step out of your own boat and take risks to follow Christ. Pray that you will have the courage to support those around you who you see taking the steps out of their boat, stepping out in faith with their eyes set on Christ. If you want to sing this week, Dear Lord and Father of Mankind at 485 in CH4 is a good place to start. Linked in the description is a version of that sung by Neil Hannon of the Divine Comedy, which never fails to fill my heart. As you reflect on all of this and think about all that goes on in your week, I encourage you to think about your own boat. Not your literal boat, but the boat of your tradition and expectations in life. The things that allow everything to remain comfortable for you, both in church and in your day-to-day life. And I'd like you to think about what it would take for you to step out of your boat and question what is the metaphorical water that's stopping you taking God's love out into the world from where you are comfortable. But for now, stand up and step out of the boat. Stand up and step out onto the water. As the waves lap around your feet and over your ankles, know the love and grace of the divine will catch you. Stand up and step out of the comfortable. Stand up and step out into the world. As the waves of change and the discomfort lap at your feet, know the love and grace of the divine is with you.